Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday afternoon. We are about a minute early, so we're going to give everybody just another minute here to file in. But again, we appreciate you taking your time. All right, still seeing some people filing in here. Okay. All right, I think we can get started. Again, I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their Wednesday afternoon or morning, depending on where you're joining us from. Um, I know your time is valuable and we do appreciate it. And just so you know, we're going to be providing a copy of the recording of this after anyways. So anybody that wasn't able to attend will get it regardless. Today's session is called Your Board Isn't Convinced of Online Voting Yet. Let's Fix That. And we picked that title on purpose because we know that's likely where many of you are sitting right now. You've seen what online voting can do, you believe in it, but you're walking into a boardroom full of skeptics and you need the right language to move things forward. And that's exactly what we're going to try to give you today. We'll start by talking about what is actually going on in that boardroom, the real objections boards raise, and why the way most people pitch online voting can accidentally make those objections worse. Then we'll shift into the right framing, one that speaks directly to what boards care about most. And finally, we'll show you the platform in action so you can see exactly what you'll be bringing to your community. Now, this is a webinar, so your mics will be muted during the duration, but the Q&A section should be available to you. So definitely any questions that come up along the way, pop those in there. I will be circling back at the end of the presentation to answer those questions. We also have a few polls sprinkled into the presentation. We appreciate your participation in those. That helps us drive future development of the platform. So your participation is greatly appreciated. On that note, quick little about us before we dive in. For anyone who's new to Ballot Bliss, our vision is to help organizations and communities make the transition to e-voting effortlessly through a simple, secure, and defensible online voting platform. We were founded in 2024, but we're partnered, and our parent company is a company called Polera Software, which is a well-known association management software that's been in the industry for over 16 years. We're also members with organizations like CAI, ECHO in California, CACM, and a number of other industry-specific organizations. So we bring a wealth of knowledge to our platform, even though it's only a few years old. A little about me. My name's Shay. I've been in the HOA and property management industry for over 8 years now. Actually, that's wrong, 9 as of February, so approaching a decade. I've helped onboard hundreds of communities over that time. I've worked closely with associations that have recently conducted their elections with Ballot Bliss and helped their communities achieve quorum. Prior to this, I worked with Fidelity Investments for several years. It also happens that our CEO and our lead developer were with Fidelity for over 10 years prior. So we bring a very enterprise level mentality to everything that we do. So, but that's enough about me. So before we jump right into the presentation, I do just want to do a quick gauge. Which objection do you guys hear the most often? And I'm going to open up this poll for you guys. Again, we really appreciate your participation. This, the answers that you guys give us is definitely directly affecting development. I'm going to give everybody just a minute here, maybe about 30 seconds. All right. Thanks again for your participation. I am seeing some results coming in. It looks like so far residents aren't tech savvy and cost or implementation seems to be the two highest concerns. Risk of legal challenge, that's definitely a concern that we hear about a lot as well. But mostly it seems that residents not being tech savvy is the winner. So um, I'm going to definitely aim to show you guys how our system can help with battling that objection. Again, we do appreciate your guys' participation in these. All right. So back to the presentation. So let's paint the picture. You've done your homework. You know online voting would make elections easier, improve participation, and ultimately save money. You bring it up at the board meeting and the room goes quiet. Then the questions start. One board member chimes in, is it really secure? Another says, are we opening ourselves up to new risks? And another says, what about residents who aren't tech savvy? Sound familiar? If you've been nodding along, you're in good company. This happens in board meetings across the country every single day. And here's the thing, you're not wrong to push back on the pushback. You came prepared, but the board has legitimate questions and they deserve legitimate answers. And I want to be clear about something. These aren't just excuses or resistance. They're real governance questions, and they deserve careful thought. When a board pushes back on online voting, they're usually raising one of 5 concerns. Fear of legal risk. What if the results are challenged? Resident tech access. Will everyone actually be able to vote? Perceived security gaps. Can the system be tampered with? Loss of control or transparency. How do we know it's done right? And disruption of the status quo, which is change is risky. What if it goes wrong? Now, here's where most managers make a mistake. They try to dismiss these concerns, or worse, they try to talk past them. The goal isn't to dismiss them, it's to answer them in a language the board actually trusts. And to do that, you have to first understand why the standard pitch fails. And here's the honest truth. The way most people pitch online voting is almost perfectly designed to lose the room and fail. Think about what most managers lead with. It's more convenient. Residents can vote from their phones, no more paper hassle. And all of that is true, but it's completely irrelevant to a board. Because while you're talking about convenience, here's what the board is actually sitting there thinking. Are we legally protected? Who's liable if something goes wrong? Does this meet our fiduciary duty? Convenience is a resident benefit. Boards don't get out of bed in the morning thinking about resident convenience. They think about liability, compliance, and their legal obligations to the community. If you lead with it's easier, you've probably already lost the room. Not because the board is being unreasonable, but because you're answering a question that they weren't really asking in the first place. So how do you fix the pitch? You have to flip the frame entirely. Online voting isn't a convenience upgrade, it's a governance tool. And the moment you walk into that board meeting leading with that framing, the whole conversation shifts. Here's how to reframe each of the 3 core board responsibilities and how online voting can benefit them. And first is the audit trail. With paper ballots, if a result gets challenged, you're left scrambling to reconstruct a process that was never fully documented. With online voting, a complete audit trail is generated automatically as the vote progresses. That's what you hand over to anyone who questions the results. And it protects the entire board, not just the admin who ran the election. Second, quorum and community cost. Every failed quorum has a real price tag to it. Things like remailing, rescheduled meetings, legal fees, and loss of administrative time can all add up. Online voting dramatically increases participation rates, which means communities hit quorum on their first try. That's not just convenient, it's a direct financial benefit for the community. And third, a documented process equals legal defensibility. A clear, verifiable record of who was invited to vote, when, and how the election was configured isn't just nice to have. In many states, it's becoming a compliance expectation. A documented process protects the board if results are ever questioned. So lead with those 3 things, and you're no longer pitching a technology upgrade, you're speaking the board's language now. And so now that we've talked about the right frame, let's talk about how to actually build board confidence once that conversation is open. Because a good pitch gets you in the door, but specifics are what close it. And I want to spend a moment on the issue of quorum and how it affects community costs, because it tends to be one of the most underused arguments for online voting, and one of the most effective when you frame it correctly. When a community fails to hit quorum, it's easy to shrug and just reschedule. But there's a real cost attached to every failed election. The remailing cost, vendor and legal fees for rescheduled elections, and lost time for managers, boards, and residents. And over time, community frustration and declining participation becomes a vicious cycle that gets harder to break the longer it continues. Here's a number that tends to land well in board discussions. Communities that move to online voting save an average of $5 per unit by eliminating paper notice costs. For a 200-unit community, that could be a $1,000 savings per election, before you even factor in the cost of running a second election when quorum fails. And we're seeing communities increase participation by as much as 80%, with more reaching quorum on the first attempt. When you frame it that every failed quorum costs the community money, you've just turned online voting into a financial responsibility question. And that's a conversation that boards are basically built to have. Next, let's talk about the audit trail. Think of the audit trail as an insurance policy for every election you run. Here's a scenario that plays out more often than people like to admit. A disgruntled owner challenges the election results. Maybe they think the process wasn't fair, or maybe they just lost and they're upset. Whatever the reason, it happens. And when it does, the question becomes, what can you actually show them? With paper ballots, you're piecing together a process that was never fully documented. With online voting, the audit trail is generated automatically in real time as the vote progresses. It captures who received a ballot and when, who voted and when, and if not set up as a secret ballot, the ability to see who voted for what as well. If set up as a secret ballot, the results are permanently separated from who voted. When coupled with timestamps for every action in the election and verification that only eligible voters participated, you get certified results with a complete chain of custody. That document is what you hand over to anyone who questions the election. It's the difference between saying, trust us, we ran it correctly, and here is the complete record. And for a board that's worried about legal risk, that distinction is everything. Now, one of the most common concerns I hear from boards isn't really about the technology. It's about control. They ask, what if we're not ready to go fully digital? And the answer is, you don't have to be, at least not right away. Ballot Bliss is built to support what is called a hybrid approach. You can accept both paper and digital ballots in the same election without running two separate processes. Digital results are tallied automatically, and then paper ballots are entered and tallied in the same system. This means the board maintains a sense of control and participation still improves. Here's what I've seen happen with clients who start hybrid. The board watches the participation data in real time. They see what percentage voted online versus by paper, and they see quorum reach faster than it ever was before. And at that point, they don't need another pitch. The results make the case for going fully digital better than any presentation really can. Residents benefit too. The voting interface is clean and mobile friendly. They get a personalized invite with no login required, and instant confirmation that their vote was received and counted. That confirmation alone does a lot for community trust. Now, one more quick poll before we move on. Has your community experienced quorum issues in the past 12 months? I would like to ask, again, for everyone's participation. Again, we appreciate you guys doing this. And we'll give everybody about 30 seconds to do that. All right, seeing a good mixture of responses to this one, actually. Sounds like there's There's no clear winner at the moment. A lot of people saying that we do hit quorum with no issue. Some people saying yes, that we've had to postpone a meeting because of issues before. Some aren't sure. And maybe that's why you're here, to learn more about what we can possibly do to help you guys. So awesome. All right. Again, thank you guys so much for participating in these. These are truly helpful for us on our development path forward. All right. So one of the concerns that boards raise a lot is resident adoption. And I actually think that was one of the highest things that you guys mentioned as far as objections. So a common objection is our residents won't know how to use it. So let me walk you through what residents actually experience, because it's simpler than most people think. And it's actually close to what most people do on their phones every day anyways. Residents receive a personalized ballot invitation via email, text, as well as postal mail. There's no app to download, there's no account to create, and there's no login required. They simply click a link, enter a code, and they're looking at a clean, mobile-friendly ballot that takes seconds to complete. The moment they submit, they receive an email confirmation that their vote was received and counted. And that confirmation email matters more than most people realize. A lot of residents don't engage with elections because they don't trust that their vote actually made it through or that it counts. That one message closes that loop immediately and builds confidence in the process. So on that note, I'm gonna hop over to my other screen here and I'll show you guys how that works. So I have a live example of a ballot invitation from our fictitious Cherry Hill condominium community. Some things to note here before I jump in. This branding is part of our package. You can have your community logo. If you're a manager of multiple associations and you want your company logo to show, we can have it that way. We can match color schemes on the email. We can say what the email from name should display. In this case, we just put the name of the association with the hopes that when someone sees that, they don't immediately think that it's spam or something of that nature. And down below, you'll notice the link and a code. So basically what the process is here is I click this link. I'm already going to know it's going to ask me to enter the last 4 of this code. So I'm just going to copy it to my clipboard. Once I click cast my vote, here's that code that it's asking me to enter the last 4 of. And here is our ballot. Now, we do support multi-unit owners. What would happen is right here, this is unit 67 for this person, but they would see all of their units as checkboxes here. They don't get multiple emails, they just get one email, and they can vote for all of their units in our system. I'm gonna check to verify that this is my unit. You'll notice that it's already set up to send me an email receipt. Here's my ballot, where you can see we support things like photos and links and such. The actual election. This was set up for 3 seats open. So I'm just going to place a vote for each and includes a budget approval. Now, as soon as I hit submit, that's also going to generate that email confirmation or receipt that I was referring to. And there you can even see it just popped up on my email. Don't mind all the spam you guys see in here. This is a dummy email. And here we are. Your vote was received, and that happened almost instantly after I submitted my ballot. So again, it's a tremendous confidence booster for residents that are hesitant about doing online voting, that they get that instant gratification. All right. And moving on. So next, I'll talk about communication and reminders. This is really the engine behind higher participation rates. Before voting opens, you can send email and text announcements to all eligible voters. Once voting begins, you get real-time participation tracking, so you can see live quorum progress at any point, and you know exactly where you stand. no guessing. And then there's targeted follow-up. You can send reminders to only those who haven't voted yet, not the people who already participated, just the ones who still need a nudge. And that last piece is a favorite with managers because it's respectful of residents who already did their part. And it's far more effective than blasting everyone and hoping for the best. And on that note, I'll show you guys how that works in our system. Excuse me. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Dry throat. Okay. So here we are again in our fictitious Cherry Hill community. I am in here now in the view of an administrator. So this is what whoever is actually running the election in our system would be seeing. And we have some ballots below, examples that we created for the sake of demonstrations. These are already built ballots, but today's focus is going to be, on the reporting and the communication capability. So I'm just going to jump straight into the communication area here. And this is actually good. The reason this is happening is because I opened up that resident ballot under the same browser, and it's detecting my login from that. I think it's going to kick me out here, guys. Hold on just 1 second. Yep. See how it brought me back in as Reed Callahan. So this is actually a security feature that I did not think of before the webinar. Bear with me just a moment, guys. But it's a good one because it shows that our system's pretty secure. It detected a login outside of the one that I was using before for this. So just bear with me for 2 seconds. All right. Now we're back in under my admin account. Apologies for the delay. So as I was mentioning, our ballots below, looking at it as an administrator. Now I shouldn't get an error. There we go. Okay. So this ballot is already active. You can see that, there's some results, but let's just imagine that this was a brand new ballot that you just built in our system and you want to start sending out those invites to solicit the residents to vote. So we call them voting invites. Our system does support standard messaging. I think I mentioned that you can send, just regular messages prior to eligible voters. So if you have a reason to communicate with them that isn't, within the voting window, that would be the purpose of that. But if you're trying to send them that actual link that we saw before in my email, that is going to be your voting invite. Here we can see all the active ballots I have for this community. So we're just going to select the ballot invite one. This is default to only send to those who haven't voted yet. So this is what we were talking about making sure that you're not spamming those who have already placed their vote. As I mentioned, we support email, text, as well as physical mailing. The physical mailing, what that does is it's not like a double envelope system. It just generates a PDF of the instructions on how they can go and place their vote electronically. So the idea would be that for the people that are still, opting to do it via paper, that you can generate that PDF and stuff it in with their paper ballot as an option for them. Otherwise, for the electronic system, the text and the email both generates that unique link for each of the residents. And you can create templates for those too. So you're not typing, for example, a reminder to vote. You can just have it set up as a template so you don't have to retype the message each time. Pretty straightforward. Subject of the email, a message if you want to add a quick blurb of your own or any extra information that you want them to see on that email. And then you can preview quickly to see who's going to receive it, who isn't for whatever reason from there. Now, circling back over to the communications area, a couple other things to note here. We track all of your outbound communications and we'll let you know if there's bounces, failures for whatever reason. So you can always go in to view that. As you can see here, a few, bounced emails, for example's sake. And then we also track replies too. So we can disable this function, but if you have it on, anybody who replies to one of those emails, the email reply will go back to the email that's tied to whoever sent the invite or that message. So whatever admin email is tied to your account when you create it in our system. All right. So The final part here for the presentation. So we've talked about the audit trail conceptually, but now I'd like to show you what it actually looks like in the platform. There's three key components. First, the ballot setup report. This shows exactly how your election was configured: timeline, secrecy settings, voter restrictions, etc. It's your documentation that the election was configured correctly from day one. Second, the time-stamped activity record. Every single action in the election is logged with a date, time, and user. Nothing is missing from the record. And third, the results export. At the close of any election, you can download a complete results report that's clean, professional, and ready to share with residents or hand to anyone that needs it. And this is really the documentation that ends disputes before they escalate. So let me show you guys how that looks. First, so I didn't show you guys how to do this yet, in this presentation, but in the settings area, this is where you would do things like give the ballot a name, mention, dictate who can vote on it if you have other scenarios like board-only voting or surveys that you might want to open up to tenants, that kind of thing. This is also where you would, mention if it's a secret ballot, which does separate the who from the what on the voting results when you pull them. Otherwise, without that, administrators do have full access to see who voted for what and when. It's also where this one vote per unit is automatically defaulted, but it can be unrestricted if you're, trying to do a survey, poll, that kind of thing. Start and end date and times, that kind of thing. And what we've done is we created a report that you can pull right here called the ballot setup report, which shows up in the builder section, because this is basically where you would end up after settings. You would build the ballot, and then you might want to pull that information and present it to the board, and that comes out looking like this. So it shows all the settings, a sample. Here's our ballot that we built. Or maybe it might be something you might want to provide to the attorney for, verification that it complies with your state statutes, that kind of thing. And then the second audit trail that we have is right in the system. So here it's called audit logs. This is the administrative audit trail. So this shows every time an administrator, and you can't have multiple admins on the same community or account. So if there are multiple admins, it'll show who did what and when. You can see that this was when it was unsealed. The deleted results is only because this is not set up as a secret ballot. If it's secret, then of course there's no way to do that. But as being an audit trail, if it's not secret, we do track that as well. And then the final, auditing report is when you unseal the results. Now, in this case, this ballot's already been unsealed. You can see the little lock symbol. It is a deliberate action. When an admin goes to unseal the ballot, it'll bring up a pop-up saying you're about to unseal this. This is an irreversible action. Do you wish to continue? And then, of course, as I just showed you, it shows up in the audit trail when they do. And then from there, you can see results in both chart format. And then here's where the table of the results is and the ballot summary report. And so this report basically summarizes everything about the ballot, including the results. And so this would be what you would pull once it's closed and present it either at the meeting or shortly thereafter. And this does include that administrative audit trail in it as well. All right. So let me quickly pull together what the platform does, because I want you to leave today with a clear picture of what you'd actually be bringing into your community. So you get everything in one place: online votes, proxies, and mailed in ballots captured and tallied together in a single system, real-time accountability with audit trails that track every vote and every action, truly secret ballots that give residents complete privacy without compromising the integrity of results, professional reports and visual charts so you can finalize elections with confidence, and post-election communications that let you share outcomes with residents through their preferred channel. And we also offer language translation on those too. So the community stays informed from the start to finish, basically. And of course, the The hope and expected result of this is happy customers. And it should hopefully be the case. Having the additional option of being able to place their votes remotely and securely, as in the situation of someone who maybe doesn't live at their unit year-round, makes this a powerful solution. This is a more recent testimonial from a client with First Service Residential. After we helped their association reach quorum for the first time, basically since the community was created 20 plus years ago. To help their community increase participation, they used the charts that I was just showing you to regularly show progress to the board, and they sent daily reminders to the people who hadn't voted yet. And they also, it's something I didn't mention, but when you have an election in our system, if your bylaw or governing documents and bylaws allow it, and this, Florida or the state statutes allow it, you can extend the end date in our system if you need to. So if you need to extend it to get more votes, that kind of thing. As a result, this client was able to successfully achieve quorum on 9 amendments on their first try with our system. And one of those amendments was actually to reduce the percentage needed to pass future amendments. So it helped them in more than just that one instance. So this is another testimonial from one of our clients that's been using our voting now for several years. They've had an 80% turnout on their last election due to the convenience of having it online, and that's overall participation. So that's a pretty crazy number that we don't usually hear in this industry. So, and on that note, I would like to take just one last poll. Again, I appreciate you guys sticking around and answering these questions. This definitely helps us. And the question is, where are you right now in your online voting journey? Let me open that up for you guys. And we'll give you guys 30 seconds or so. Okay. I see a lot of you guys are just exploring your options. A few are saying that their board is open, but just hasn't made the move yet. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys again. This helps us tremendously, your participation in these. But it looks like most of you are just exploring our options, which is understandable. Hopefully it's been helpful for you guys. All right. Before we move to the Q&A, I did want to just briefly highlight a few recent updates to the platform because some of you may be evaluating Ballot Bliss against other options, and these things are worth knowing about. So that summary report that I showed you actually is a newer thing that we added, the enhanced reporting for the comprehensive election documentation. So you get more detail, it's better organized, easier to share with the board and with residents after an election. Enhanced audit logging. So some of the things we've added is status changes. It wasn't as robust on what we logged. Now there's not really anything that even just viewing results is logged into that audit trail. So you get a clear, verifiable history of every action taken throughout the election. There's no gaps, no ambiguity. Clearer voter communication. So we've simplified the consent language with easier to read invite codes, and then the consistent branding throughout the voter experience, which I showed you guys on the email and such. The actual app itself can be branded with color schemes and logos, so it just makes the whole experience more authentic, which means people are going to adopt it easier. First impressions matter, so. And on that note, here would be how you can get started. So if you guys are interested to speak with us, you can schedule a consultation. If you go to ballotbliss.com/book a demo, and there is just a big book a demo link right up on the webpage when you go to ballotbliss.com anyways. So if you book a free consultation, there's no pressure, there's no sales script, it's just a conversation to discover your community's needs and see if we're a good fit. You get hands-on support. We'll import your community data, walk you through the platform, and we'll be there with training and support every step of the way. Your residents, they cast ballots in seconds via the personalized email or text invite, so they don't have a login needed. And you'll see a real impact, higher participation, greater resident trust, and the ability to move faster on the decisions that matter most to your community. And before we move to that Q&A, I did just want to give you something tangible that you guys can take back to your next board meeting. We're calling it the What to Say When Your Board Has Concerns Over Online Voting Cheat Sheet. We'll be sending it out along with the recording, so you have it ready for your next conversation. And on that note, I'm just going to open up the Q&A, which it looks like we do have several questions in there. Okay. Okay. A good question was, how does it save money, especially if you have to do a hybrid? So the answer to that is that in some cases, initially, it may be more. I'm not going to lie to you. The reason is because you're driving towards the ultimate goal of everybody adopting online, but you're bound to have people who are going to be resistant to it. It's just human nature, right? And so what happens is as more adoption, and more engagement happens with your community, the cost of those who are still holding out and doing it paper gets less and less. And so eventually you are only paying for the online portion of it, which is cheaper than doing the mailings. We have done that competitive research, and we know that, mailings can cost anywhere from $3 to $5 per person receiving those. And our cost is a fraction of that, which, by the way, is on our website. We're not, hiding it. It's transparent. If you want to go to ballotbliss.com/pricing, it's there, and it's based on your community size. So, but that was an excellent question. Definitely a good one. Thank you. Another question, was the quorum question related to board quorum or homeowner quorum? I think, well, so that's a good question, because quorum, the word, it's, and we hear different, things from different communities, but our understanding is that quorum is just the amount of participation in the meeting needed to make anything that is done in that meeting valid. So it's not necessarily, question of how many votes are gotten. It's how many people are there per the governing documents. And so that may be a question for your attorney, to be honest, because, that can vary from community to community. And what, and what that relates to with regard to what kind of vote as well, whether it's an amendment or an election, that kind of thing. Any reason the status on voting can't be shared with the community at large? The status on voting, I guess, I'm not sure if you're asking if you're referring to, let me see, I think I want to make sure I'm answering that question appropriately, because I think it depends. Again, we have secrecy built into the system for secret balloting. Who voted and who hasn't is always something an administrator can access and share if they want to. But what they voted for is the part that, of course, is important to protect in that regard. Okay. And I'm going to circle back on all these questions, guys. If I'm not answering them in a way that makes sense to what your question was, I'll make sure we get you a right answer. Okay. And I'm actually getting pinged by my admin that's helping me here that she thinks it might be related to the poll question about if you set it up as like a board only vote versus a resident vote. So, that is just driven by the settings. I mean, our system's set up to allow you to vote, just board only, that kind of thing. Who it's shared with after that, though, is up to whoever is administrating the ballot. So Does audit trail ability change if the election is totally secret? That's a good question. So first off, I'm assuming this is a question related to um, the administrative audit trail. So for the administrative audit trail, nothing changes there because, again, it's just tracking whatever they're doing, viewing the results, unsealing them. None of that changes for a secret ballot. The only thing that wouldn't be included is, of course, deleted results because you can't delete results for a secret ballot. And as far as what's included on the on the summary report, of course, yes, there is actually a difference because if it's not secret, we can actually export those as individual PDFs of each vote that was cast and by whom. But obviously for a secret ballot, we don't have that information. So it just shows up as one summary report with the final results. And that's it. And someone asks, when will this morph into relieving the need for a board at all? A funny question. I'm not sure it ever will, I think, but our hope being that we make things easy enough that there's no room for contention, in at least with regard to the voting aspect of things for HOAs and condos. So we'll see where that one goes. But yeah, I think at least making lives easier is hopefully enough. Okay. I know we're approaching 40 minutes into this, guys. I think that's all the questions. Let's see. Oh, here we go. You got a couple more coming in. So you mentioned sending progress reports on voting to the board. Can those same progress reports be sent to the community so they can track progress along with the board? Just percentage of completion. So again, I mean, the way to think about this is that we're providing the tool. We're providing, all the data and the information compiled, but how you choose to disseminate that is up to whoever's administrating it and what your governing documents say. We're not making the rules, so to speak. We're just making it possible for people to use our system to successfully run, their votes. So to answer your question, you could take screenshots of those charts and send those as a progress report. They don't show, who voted for what. It's just an overall, picture on a pie chart. So that is something that you could certainly share with the community as well as the board, if it's allowed. So. Yeah. Okay, I think that does it. Any questions that are trickling in last minute here, we'll make sure to follow up with you, as I mentioned. So any questions that I didn't answer, we'll definitely follow up with you guys. Also, visit us at ballotbliss.com. Like I said, our pricing is up there. If you guys book a consultation and let us know in the meeting that you were a part of that webinar, it'll be helpful as well. And feel free to call us too. We're happy to talk to you on the phone as well. And on that note, I appreciate everybody's time again and your participation in the polls. We'll be following up with anybody that didn't get their questions answered. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.